Okay, so I'm here with Mark. Mark has been one of the main people in the consumer app space, scaling different apps with TikTok ads. I think it's TikTok ads the main thing, right, Mark?
Yes, exactly.
And Mark is also behind Posted, which is a creator marketplace, creator reward marketplace. Am I saying it wrong, Mark?
It's a two-facing marketplace that helps connect consumer apps and content creators.
Amazing, amazing. So, from our side, we've been scaling a lot of different apps with organic. And I think the point of this video is really to imagine, okay, we know nothing about TikTok ads. How do we go about scaling installs for an app with TikTok ads? How does it work? Mark, feel free to give us a bit of a more complete intro on what you do. And then whenever you want, we can get started.
Yeah, happy to share some insights, man. I think your clients and your network is in a perfect scenario to launch paid because what I've been doing is I take content that has been posted organically and then putting it on paid and scaling install campaigns, right? So really the magic here is getting your existing content into the right people that are ready to download.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Mark, I think a few things that we want to do in this video. So from sharing like how to actually set up a dummy campaign so people can actually see if they try to do it themselves, how it works. And then from my side, throwing some questions your way on, okay, what if we already have viral videos? What if we've never done organic content? So going through those scenarios to help as many people as possible, I think is going to be the way to go. So whenever you want, we can start sharing, go through an example campaign, and I'll be here to, pretend I've never seen this before and throw some questions your way.
All right. So I think the most crucial start when, no, okay, let me rephrase. Okay, I think that the best thing that you can do when you already have content that went organically viral is to put it on paid because you're just going to increase the lifetime value of the creative that you have, right? The biggest step is going from not having content to having content and then from having content into making it perform. So you can create a viral loop, right? Where you take the content that performs organically and recreate it to get higher conversions coming in with the content being optimized. But I feel like out of my experience, you're going to hit a certain threshold in organic that you can outscale with paid. Because if you crack the code, you did the most hard thing that you potentially could do. I think organic is harder than paid. So if you figured out organic, you should scale on paid even further, right? You're just going to get more ammunition. Out of my experience, if you have a bunch of creatives, you should test all of them, right? This was a mistake that I did, and this is a mistake that I see a lot of founders doing in the beginning. It's, assuming to know which content can work on paid. There's a very, very high correlation between a piece of content going organic and getting downloads to also performing on paid, but it does not work the other way around, right? You can have piece depots of content that you think it's good and it's maybe even too salesy structured in order to go viral, but the conversion is high because the product is really positioned in a way that is extremely sharp. But maybe the extremely sharp mechanism of the creative is the reason why the retention is not high enough. So you can outwork this by putting paid behind. I think in your case scenario and for your network, the pieces of content that you have multiple videos with millions of views that got thousands of downloads, right? You're sitting on a gold mine with this because now imagine you can increase the reach while being laser focused on the people that see it gonna convert into paying customers, right? We can not only run install campaigns in TikTok or Meta, we can run campaigns with a very specific goal of the campaign, which can be initial purchase or start trial, for example, right? So you've done the hard thing, which is getting the content created and getting organic reach. Now, the easier thing is to recreate this by putting paid in it and scaling it up horizontally.
Yeah, no, this is great. And I think a lot of the questions people ask me, and I think a lot of the questions from people who are watching will have is, okay, how do I know that my organic creative is going to perform well on ads? And the easy answer is you don't. You need to test it, right? But what are some of the things we need to have in place on just a regular creative, organic creative posted on TikTok that are good indicators that that creative is going to perform very well on ads? You mentioned some things. So being product centric, for example, mentioning the product, generating installs organically. If those things are happening, my understanding is that those are good indicators that it would perform well on paid. How do you think about that, Mark?
Yeah, I think there's like I heard somebody called Darius Mora. He's the CMO from Reflectly. They got like 12 million downloads. And I hear a podcast of him and he said something along the line like, don't show the market what you think is good, show them everything you got, and they will tell you based on their behavior what actually is good, right? So if you have creatives already, that are in your pipeline, you're not going to win anything by not testing them on paid on a low budget, right? What are we speaking here? You want to go from $50,000 MMR to $500,000 MMR. Don't hesitate on putting, a few $100 into all your creatives that you anyways have there, right? 100% sure that a lot of your clients, based on, I know the creatives and videos that you produce, they are highly optimized for conversions, right? Your clients easily can take the content that you made for them and just test them on paid, right? I can also show you exactly how to do this in a second, but I want to stress out the factor that, your clients have the potential. The ammunition is there. They just need to shoot the cannon, right? It's not about building the weapon or finding the ammunition. It's all sitting directly in front of their hands. They just need to go ahead and let the data decide if this has potential or not.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of what we've seen with very, very successful clients is exactly this. Is a very good blend with what's working with organic to then scaling with paid and continuously doing that and testing different things. And I think also for a lot of people watching, for a lot of people who are maybe, in that hustle of trying to get organic working, they are maybe already setting in some videos that would perform very, very well on paid, right? So these are all things that, especially if you have the budget, you should consider when trying to scale your user acquisition efforts. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you have like a lower budget, let's say you are just starting out and you have created already 30, 40 pieces of content, you have one or two hitting 100,000 views and getting a few hundred downloads. This is already a very strong indicator. You can maybe take, 500 or $1,000 aside and go ahead and just test them on paid ads, right? And if you don't have the budget yet, you need to find, like, for example, when I started running paid, I was working in a supermarket. I worked there and I put, stuff in the shelf to get my budget to start to run paid ads. You always need to invest first in the paid ads to try it out. And all you need, like, for real, I want to stress this out. All you need to scale up is one piece of content that performs well. You would be like the sheer size of scale that can be achieved with a real piece of content is unbelievable. Like, we can go on the ads library also in a second. I can show you some creatives. They have been scaled to, like, I don't know, 600 million views, 500 million views.
Yeah.
The pure possibility in terms of scale is unbelievable, right?
No, yeah, I've seen this in your Twitter as well. But I think it's funny because people still don't really understand what the power of this whole thing is. If you stumble on a winning format, whether it is on organic or on paid, if you stumble on one winning style of video that keeps generating downloads, you just need that one. You don't really need to be reinventing the wheel. That one creative can take you to insane levels of scale. So yeah, I've seen that over and over again. And that's what we do with a lot of clients, is trying to find those formats, trying to build those gold mines. But then these tools of scaling them further are still slept on by a lot of people, by a lot of founders.
Yeah. I think in your accounts, it's very, very clear to see that you try out a lot, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like testing, getting one viral video and reinventing this video, doing it over and over, not reinventing, like reproducing the video over and over and
Exactly.
over again. And with ads, it's very similar. For example, a few days ago, I found a winning format that had posted, and we helped scaling this ad. What we did is we took the exact video and went to a creator that fulfilled the same ideal customer profile. So it was a young American girl, like in her very early 20s, that was doing a get ready with me while talking about an app. We took this creative and went to another creator that looked not exactly the same, but had the same age range and the same demographics. And we told her, do a get ready with me while I speak about the product. And the results almost doubled, right? It was just taking the video that performed, recreating the exact video, but the second creator just used a few different words in the copy, and all of a sudden the performance spiked. So now we know exactly, we found we always speak about product market fit when building the products, right? When doing ads and growth, we have the same, but it's like content market fit, right? You need to establish content market fit, and then you can scale through the roof and reproducing over and over and over and over and over again. Like, you remember this guy Logan that was doing the cucumber salad that get like hundreds of millions. Bro, he was cutting a cucumber in his hook, and it worked. Hundreds of millions of views, and this guy probably made millions of dollars from it. This just shows, you need to hit the gold mine once. So the way to get there can be hard, but if you do it, it's worth
Yeah.
the hustle.
Yeah, no, 100%. And just to finalize this before we jump into the actual ad campaign, this is something I've seen this over and over again in the e-commerce space a few years ago, 5 years ago. This is exactly how TikTok organic has been working since the start, right? And ads, not to mention that side. And now the consumer app space is kind of trying to replicate this or trying to jump on the same wave. And again, I feel like these core concepts are still not fully understood by a lot of people, that there's an initial hump to get through on getting to content market fit. But as soon as you get to that, then it's just very much simpler, at least, to scale, because you have paid with a winning creative, you have organic with a winning creative. Then it's just volume and doubling down on what already worked. And I know from your experience, Mark, that that's a lot of the same that happens on the paid side. So yeah, I'm very excited to look through, like, how do you actually go about setting up a campaign? If you have an app, if you're trying to generate installs right now, what do you do? How do you do it?
Yeah, I can give you the rundown. So I think when it comes to running ads, like 80% is going to be your creative, because in the creative is making or breaking the success of your whole campaign, in my opinion. You just need to take care of a few little things, but your ad account setup, it's not that complicated. I can show you right now in a second how to do it exactly. But the most crucial part is going to be your ability of positioning your product in the most attractive way that when somebody sees it, they want to buy. This is the biggest challenge. It's not ad account structure, it's creatives. For my part, when I do initial launch or launching in general or scaling a new campaign, I'm from the Post-it team, so I go ahead and I get creatives from Post-it. We normally get something like 10 to 30 pieces of content, averaging between, let's say, $250, roughly speaking. And we let a UGC creator post them on, like, let's say, smaller creators. We're not working with influencers, can be UGC creator, micro influencer, but just not necessarily when launching initially the bigger players. But can also be, but not on the day-to-day, on the average. And we just let them post a piece of content on their account. Out of my experience when producing content, a big learning I had was I am not the creator, and the creator is not an actor. So I should not, as a founder, or like you as a founder, when you are directing creators, don't give them a word for word script and don't tell them too much what exactly to do, because this is going to take away the authentic part. The difference between like UGC and influencer is that the UGC is more of a recommendation from a normal human. And if you're going to give them a word for word script, you're going to take away the authentic part and the ability for the creator to produce retention content, right? Because this is why you hire them in first place. They should, experience value of your product and then produce an authentic piece of content. Of course, give them some ideas, some market research, give them 3 to 4 pieces of content that are working just as an inspiration, but not as a very hard direction. After you get this content, I can share my screen and I can show you, what to do. I would highly recommend you to use Spark ID. Just, very quick introduction. Spark ID is a code that you're going to receive inside of TikTok. You're going to connect it with your ad account, and you will be able to run, like in your case, for your clients with your branded account and not with the ad account itself. The difference is just that there is a capability for the user to follow the account. And when they click on the profile picture inside of TikTok, there's going to be a pop-up on the profile with a call to action included. Just the click-through rate is higher, and TikTok prefers this piece of content, so the performance is normally better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the Spark ad side, asking for the Spark IDs or taking the Spark IDs from the actual account you're running or your creators are running. And from there, with the Spark ID, starting the campaigns on TikTok ads, which we'll get to in a second. Is that right, Mark?
Yes, 100%. let the creators post the content in their profile, or in your case, take the Spark ID from your clients or from your UGC creators that you manage from their profile. It's a small difference, but I see better performance using Spark ID versus uploading the content direct in the ad library.
Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, Mark, whenever you want, we can get into it. We can then start sharing and
A quick note. Also, think about it in the terms of Spark ID. Alex, your clients have millions and hundreds of thousands of likes on their creatives, right? If you
Mhm.
use Spark ID, the social proof that you have established during the organic growth is going to boost the performance of your paid journey now a lot. Because like when I use TikTok I'm a user, right? So I scroll on TikTok, and if I see a video with 12 likes, I normally just skip it immediately. If you do the ad with a piece of content that has like 300,000 likes, the retention automatically going to be higher because the user sees the social proof of saved likes, comments, so the ad is going to perform better. And you only are able to have this social proof if the Spark ID is being used versus a non-Spark.
no, 100%. So you basically take an creative that already, already has social proof, already grew organically, and you
Yeah.
just throw the budget on it to go to colder and colder audiences with the ads.
Exactly, because conversions also happen in the comment space, right? So if you already have people speaking positive about the product because it went viral organically, now your ad is going to perform better. It's not going to make or break the success. If it's a bad piece of content, it's not going to perform because it has 10,000 likes. But if it's anyways a good piece of content that converts views into downloads, the chance that it's going to convert even higher is there.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's definitely a whole world of things to learn. But the whole Spark ad world is amazing, but especially because of the social proof.
I'm going to show you an example that of a campaign structure that I'm running right now. So you can see here, for example, we have like a $1.09 cost per install. Now this is all from posted content that we got from contest and deal structures of UGC creators there. And I'm going to show you exactly what I did to launch this campaign. So first things first, I went into the ad library, and here, so what I do here is, you can see I have a bunch of UGC. So what you can see here is the Spark ad section. Here I upload my Spark ID codes. I just click on apply for authorization and then insert the code that the creator gives you. Here's a very, very easy tutorial. You click on this button, then on this symbol, and here you get the code. So if you have already content for you and your clients, you can do exactly this to connect the accounts. If you work with creators, you can just send them this here, and they should be able to insert the Spark ID. After you insert the Spark ID, I'm going to show you what you can do next. You are should not show.
Yeah.
So now what you do is you're going to start a new campaign. What I like to do is I do app promotion, and then I do Smart Plus campaign. I see Smart Plus and manual both perform. For now, let's take Smart Plus because it just leverage AI and the algorithm a little bit more. So I see often better performance in Smart Plus. However, manual setup can also work. I then turn on iOS 14 dedicated campaigns and select the app I want to work with. And that's pretty much it for here. You can name your campaign. We can just name it test one. All right. And hit continue. Okay, in the placement section, if you work with manual campaign, make sure to only select TikTok. In Smart Plus, it will be optimized by AI. But again, really important step, when you do manual campaign, only select TikTok and no third party. Now, in this case, let's just do US traffic. There's a tip: if you do US campaigns and you want like American, or let's say North American traffic, include Canada, because I also see cheaper, like I see similar conversion values, but cheaper CPAs with Canada. So it's always good to
Okay.
test it out. For the budget, it really depends on your budget, right? But what I would suggest you, like for like a really bare minimum, if you want to get initial data coming in, like really bare minimum, do $50 for 3 days with 5 creatives, right? So $150 spent on 5 creatives per campaign, the bare minimum. The more, the better, but you also don't need to go crazy here. Let's say you are funded, you don't need to start spending $1,000 on a campaign with 5 creatives inside there, because the data normally is in the beginning similar to a bigger ad spend. Normally, with a bigger ad spend, first the performance is going to increase because the learning phase is being surpassed. And then after some time, when the frequencies get too high and the audience is being saturated, the performance goes down. But even if you, like I say, if you just got $5 million funding in and you want to test, invest the money into getting a bigger range of creatives, but don't blow all your money in the beginning on creatives with no track record, right?
Yeah. So, Mark, just to recap, what you're saying here is if you have a lower budget, the bare minimum would be $50 per day across 3 creatives. So that's
No, it's
$150 per day.
yeah, I would start with $50 a day for 5 creatives, like 5 or 6 creative. This is the recommendation TikTok gives you us.
Okay.
The reason I would not take less is because you need some ammunition to test, and this is also what the algorithm likes. But if you do a lot more than 5 creatives, the ad spend is going to be very unequal between all of them, and
Mm.
maybe piece of content that would have had potential of perform is not going to get really enough spend.
Okay.
That's not as happening when you do like 12 creatives, for example. So 5 is the number that I feel worked for me, and then I just
Okay.
duplicate the campaigns.
Mark, just to clarify, that's $50 across the 5 creatives. That's not per creative, right?
Yeah, no, it's like $50 budget as like a bare minimum over 3 days, and this is going to be for your campaign, right? So it's going to be
Yeah,
in. This is going to
for the
be.
whole campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, cool, cool.
But again, this is bare minimum, right? If you want to, if you have a little bit more, do like $150 and let it run for 3 days, and you're gonna have $450 spent, and you're gonna have better data. But also keep in
Okay.
mind when it comes to the budget, if your performance is after like let's say $100 horrible, let's say you have a $3 cost per click and the 0.2 clicks to rate, you can turn off the campaign, right? If it's not going
Yeah.
if it's looking very bad, you can make a decision earlier, but if the performance is looking medium, you can let it run little bit longer. So there's like not really one fits all solution for this. I can just give a rough recommendation.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So in terms of day partying, I don't do day partying. I normally just launch. If you are on a bigger budget and it's already in the evening and in the time zone that you are running, you can schedule it for the next day, because if you launch the campaign at 8 p.m. and in like 4 hours, your full budget is going to be blown, which is not ideal. So, just to make sure, if you're launching in a time zone where it's already about to end the day to the next day, but other than that, I don't really do anything with day partying. Optimization goal, click on the beginning, I do install, because the best revenue focused optimization goal is going to be purchase, right? However, when I do an initial test and I want to figure out what is going to work, I do install and optimize later on for paid, because there's going to be a bigger time window in order for the data to come in, right? Let's say you have a 7 days free trial, and then the scan data to arrive can take you to like 48 hours. You're going to have like 9 days until the first conversion comes in. I don't want this for initial test. I want the data to come in quicker. So I'm going to do install, figure out which creatives work, and then relaunch a new campaign with the creatives that work and optimize for in-app events. And here you can choose, whatever it might be. Initially, when you select this, it's going to be on click, right? So make sure that it's not on click. It should be on install. And
Okay.
here it's going to get interesting. What I want to do is I'm going to turn on delivery on Spark. Here, delivery on
Mhm.
Spark ads. I'm going to choose authorized post in this case.
Okay. And then you add the authorized posts from
And
that
now,
page you showed before.
exactly now here you have the library of posts that you connect in the past, and you can just choose whatever, I would choose five creatives here per campaign. Another tip I can give is to use app profile pages. And here is another like a little hack. App profile pages. Let's take here the one I'm using right now. Oops. Here. This is an app profile page, right? This basically means this is the place where downloads can happen. This means the user don't necessarily needs to opt out of TikTok to download the app, which TikTok likes, because they don't lose users, right? So they tend to have better conversions here.
Mhm.
You can adjust, you can create as many app pages as you basically want. So let's say, for example, you have a creative for posted maybe or let's take a fitness tracking app, like a calorie tracking app. A calorie tracking app is a very versatile product, right? You can have a creator promoting it, and the creator could be a mom promoting calorie tracking for kids because she don't want her kids to be obese. However, you can also run ads theoretically with a gym bro that wants to track his protein to get muscle growth, right? This could be two very different creatives leading to the same product. You can optimize your conversion, right, by adjusting the screenshots that you can insert here based on the targeting that you do within your creative, right? This is one of the easiest ways on how to bump up your, like cut down your cost per install if you are scaling, right? So if you are scaling and you found a winning creative, optimize at least the copy of your instant page screenshots to align the creative to get a higher, click-through rate and conversion rate. Normally, I see like around 30% conversion at least here. If it's lower, you should optimize, and if it's at 30%, you can also optimize further. But this is a rough number to give you here. And basically, the same is also as a tip for your viewer. The same is also with your App Store screenshots. Let me just stop sharing very quick. This is also something I want to give as advice. When you run paid ads, it doesn't matter if it's Google, Meta, Apple ads, like Apple search ads or whatever it is. If you can optimize your screenshots, the CPI can cut down very drastically, right? If you're going to have a 20% conversion rate from your from your App Store page, and you pay, let's say, $1 to get a click, right? Versus if you have a 40% conversion rate and you pay $1 per click, you're going to have the one CPI is going to be half as expensive as the other one. And going from 20% to 40% is very possible. You just need to, make the screenshots look more appealing and the copy being sharper. I think this is maybe the easiest way to cut down the cost per install and optimize the whole performance. Before you start to do anything else, make sure that your conversion rate is high enough. Like a normal conversion rate should be of your App Store page around 30%. A good conversion rate is like, I would say, around 60%. And the highest conversion rates on the App Store page that I saw is probably around, let's say, 80%. But this also, like when you have ads running or like organic pieces of content that already create a very high purchase intent, of course your conversion rate on the App Store is going to be a lot higher because the purchase, or let's not say the purchase decision, but the decision to at least download happened before they landed there. However, it's relevant that your copy aligns with your whole funnel there, and it's in an attractive way presented.
Yeah, no, 100%. So you're saying optimizing the pages to whoever the audience is, so we bring the conversion rates up and cut down the CPIs, those being some of the most important things, especially running paid, yeah?
Yeah, when optimizing, when scaling up, if you found a piece of content that works and you're scaling up, make sure at least in TikTok, your instant page aligns with your creative to have the best possible conversions coming in.
So you were saying for the first 3 days testing with that budget, I have a few questions there. So the first one is what kind of metrics or
Yeah.
what kind of numbers are the a good indicator that that campaign is healthy and should continue, right? And what do we do after the first 3 days? How do we go about it, right?
Yeah, so first things first, this is a very individual answer, right? Because let's say, for example, if you have a product that, if you are like a big funded startup and you have a LTV of 12 months that you realize because your app is extremely sticky, you're going to have a lot different indicators if you are like an indie developer that runs on $10 weekly and, just want to extremely fast scale up and press as much users in as fast as possible. So it's really hard to give numbers here, but I can give some examples, right? Normally, when I do like an initial launch, what I'm trying to achieve is at minimum a click-through rate of 1%. Because if the click-through rate is like a lot higher, there's an indicator that this piece of content is not going to perform. So I look at the click-through rate and I'm going to look at the cost per click as the top of funnel indicators. And the cost per click is hard to give like a exact number because it is based on too many factors, but like around 30%, 30 cent is a good indicator, at least for the beginning,
Yeah.
right? 1% click-through rate, 30% at 30 cent cost per click. In terms of the CPI, it also depends on exactly what your goal is here, right? If you
Yeah.
optimize $100 annual subscription, you're going to have a lot higher CPI. You can have a $20 CPI and be profitable, right? But this is not going to be the case for most consumer apps that just initially launch. I feel like the CPI like of around $1 is going to be attractive for a lot of users. However, if your CPI is like $1 to $3 when you initially launch, it's already going to be a good indicator, right? Like, let's say $2 to $3 CPI when initially launching is a good indicator. If you have a CPI of, let's say, $5 to $6, that it's going to be hard to optimize this piece of content into like a $1 CPI, right? Going from a $6 CPI to a $1 CPI is not really going to happen with optimizing the campaign structure or it's because you positioned your product in the wrong manner in the creative. Because the way that I just showed you the campaign setup, I have no interest targeting. I have no real, the demographics are not there. It's just completely broad targeting. So the creative itself is going to do the targeting. The algorithm is literally reading your piece of content. I can also show you how this looks like from the back end of TikTok. But if your creative is far away, if the performance is far away from where you want to be, it's fault of the creative when you use a very broad campaign structure like I did right now. I can also show like how a good campaign looks like as an example.
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be cool.
This is like one that I publicly shared, so I can show it here. Also, we got like $60,000, 61,000 ad spend, 61,000 users with 40 million impressions and a 2.87% click-through rate and a 5-cent cost per click.
Nice.
It's not something that you're gonna get when you initially launch. This is the result of testing over months and months and optimizing everything. The piece of content that is used in this campaign got millions of views organically and down like around 100,000 downloads organically. And then we put it into paid and it completely ripped, right? It printed a lot because there was already the social proof. So this is the result of optimizing a lot. Data like this is achievable, but it's not going to be what you optimize from the beginning. However, if you're going to do initial launch and you have a 1% click-through rate and a 30-cent cost per click, the chances is that you are on a good way. If you have a $1 cost per click and a 0.3% click-through rate, the chances that you are very far away from where you want to be are there, right? So always need to keep in mind that this is just broad numbers, but this is a good example of how it could look like.
Yeah, Mark, my last question, and I think this is one that a lot of people are going to think about. So imagine now the founders or the teams that are now watching this and thinking, yeah, but we don't really have any viral videos, right? We have maybe a few creatives going to 5,000, 10,000 views on TikTok, right? Is it still possible for those accounts or for those people to get very good results on those creatives on paid? And how do you go about it? What are the big differences in between maybe, scaling those creatives up, maybe more volume, or scaling a creative that already has millions of views, right? So how do you think about that?
Yeah. So I never had this case scenario where I took a piece of content that performed organically very strong and get like, let's say over 10,000 downloads, put it onto paid and it didn't work. I haven't seen that, but I see many, many times a piece of content that get like 2,000 views organically and then it prints on organic, right? On paid. So first things
Okay.
first, you have the problem that you don't get any content that works well. You can come to post it and we help you, right? But if you already have content and you are sitting on on 10,000 views, it means your creative is maybe not the best one, but it's also not the worst one because 10,000 views is at least a little bit of an indicator that something have been done right. So just test it, throw some creatives in your ad account of the campaign structure that I showed you and get an understanding and get a feeling for the data, right? Because when I upload 10 to 30 pieces of content, I think in my mind, this is going to be the winner, this is going to be the loser. I test, and normally it's not what I think. The data speaks for itself. I want to show you something very quick also here. Okay, let's go on the second.
All good.
So let me share my screen. You see my screen? So you can go on tools. Where is it? Creative library. No, where is it? So you can go on analytics and then creative inspiration. And then you can click here, explore more. And this is the ad library that is reachable over the ads manager. It's a little bit different than the one that you get when you enter without an ad account. And here you can look up for the creatives. And, for everyone thinking that they might not have the best creatives, I really encourage you to look through this here. And you're gonna really wonder like how it's possible that some of these videos have like
Yeah,
millions of likes. Literally millions of likes. These are like videos that look really weird. I don't know an
yeah,
example, right? But just go here and take a look at some videos and they work. In terms of scale, like look at this, 3 million likes on a piece of content is insane.
yeah. A lot of these are surprising when you actually start looking through the data and understanding what actually works.
Yeah.
It's funny. Anyway, Mark, I have 2 minutes, so I'll just wrap it up. Mark, I think this is super super valuable for everyone watching, for everyone that's looking to understand a bit more of this whole marketing thing. There's a lot of words thrown out on Twitter: organic, paid, TikTok. So I think this contributes a lot to just helping people understand a bit more and a bit more in depth on how this whole thing actually works. So I have to thank you a lot for taking the time to showing this, and I have no doubt this is going to help a lot of people over time. And yeah, man, it was amazing to have you, Mark. I'll leave your Twitter on description. I'll tag you on Twitter. I'll tag
Thank
you
you
on
very
YouTube. But what's your Twitter handle, Mark?
Mugo Scales.
Mugu Scales. I'll tag
Yeah,
it
so
below,
I
guys.
share insights there. So if anyone here is interested in some behind the scenes of running paid for consumer apps, drop me a follow. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Easy,
This was fun.
easy, Mark. Thank you for being here, and yeah, all good.
Thank you.